Hi everybody, this is Joshua Kirk back with you guys once again on YouTube. And now it's time for episode 51 of Album of the Day. And, thankfully all the snow, or at least most of the snow is gone. But right now but even though there's no snow, it's a pretty crappy day outside today. It's raining and stuff like that, and it's supposed to be rainy and foggy today, so the weather isn't the best today, but lately we've had some pretty good weather here in Maryland, so but anyway, aside from that, let's not talk about that too much for now. And plus, I will tell you that we're trying a new technique out. So we're using a lamp in my room to make sure there's more light on me when I'm reviewing than it is back there. But anyway, aside from those two sort of random, not so interesting things, let's get on to the review. Today's artist is a band that me and my dad absolutely love, a band that we love because they really do tell some intriguing stories, and they know how to rock out, and they're a band that truly is wise beyond their years in their lyrics, to the point where they seem to be more honest in the songs than they are in a conversation. So the band is Drive-By Truckers. They've been around since about 1996. I'm here to review their most recent album, which came out on March 4th, 2014. The album is called English Oceans. So, this album definitely does show some maturity for the Drive-By Truckers. The Drive-By Truckers have definitely grown a lot lately, so this album right here, English Oceans, really does show how they've grown up and how they've matured musically. And kind of the same thing with their previous album, which came out in 2011, called Go-Go Boots, which was recorded at the same time the album The Big To Do, which came out in 2010, came out. In 2010 was recorded. So anyway, here's the cover, spine, and the back. So the songs on here are Shots Count, When He's Gone, Primer Coat, Pauline Hawkins, Made Up English Oceans, The Part of Him, Hearing Jimmy Loud, Till He's Dead or Rising, Hanging On, Natural Light, When Walter Went Crazy, First Air of Autumn, and Grand Canyon. And it's produced, engineered, and mixed by David Barb, who has worked with the band for pretty much a decade, on a lot of their records, pretty much starting with Decoration Day, which came out in 2003, which a lot of the fans consider one of their best records. Which I haven't really heard too much of Decoration Day, but I'm going to have to check it out one day. But I will tell you that I do really like, some albums these guys have put out, like Southern Rock Opera and The Dirty South. Those are some two killer rock albums. And they've really kind of made a lot of changes in the band. Their first album, Gangsta Billy, had kind of an old country feel to it, while Pizza Deliverance, which came out in 1999, had more of kind of the rock feel that would become kind of the norm for the band. Just making sure I have enough time. Yes, I do. So, here's the inside of the album, which has a photo of the band, like the current lineup that it is right now. Um, and its two core members are singer-songwriters and guitarists Patterson Hood and Mike Cooley. And Brad Morgan is the drummer. Jay Gonzalez plays like keyboards and guitar and stuff like that. And Matt Patton plays bass in the band currently. Um, and then there's a booklet which has, the lyrics, and the cool thing about the packaging of this is that it explains like when Patterson Hood wrote some of his songs. Yeah, I think I forgot a page. And then there's like the liner notes. And then there's all the thank yous. So, and there's the CD itself. And this is on ATO Records, which has been the label for people like David Gray and, people like that. And more recently, it's become the label for Jessica Lee Mayfield and the Old 97s, which, speaking of the Old 97s, I'm wearing a shirt that I got that I got online before I saw them on New Year's Eve at the Hamilton and met them, and that was cool. Which kind of makes sense. I'm wearing an Old 97s shirt because the album, because Drive By Truckers kind of has similar kind of influences as the Old 97s do. Similar songwriting style and a similar musical type of genre. So that's English Oceans by Drive By Truckers. Packaging of it, to be exact. So the album opens with the first track, Shots Count, which definitely does show that the Drive By Truckers kind of went back to kind of their more rock sound on this album, while Go-Go Boots had more acoustic ballads than a lot of the other records did, which I think, the rock thing was a big comeback for the band, because, Go-Go Boots, it's a good album, but Go-Go Boots, I felt, wasn't as good as some of the other ones. Like, it still had good songs on it, but just, it wasn't, particularly, memorable or anything like that. So I think the rock thing kind of was a big comeback, and kind of, finally the Drive By Truckers kind of did another thing that sounds amazing. Zing. And one thing that sets this album apart from other Drive By Truckers records is that half of the record is written and sung by Patterson Hood, and the other half of it is written and sung by Mike Cooley. It's pretty much the first time the band's done an album where it's half with Cooley and the other half with Hood, as opposed to the bulk of some of the other albums being Hood doing the songwriting and the vocal, and Mike Cooley, occasionally doing a few songs with him doing lead vocal and, writing a song. And it's also the first album to contain a song with Cooley singing on it that Hood actually wrote. And there's definitely some new elements in the song Shots Count that definitely show the band kind of trying out some new things. Like, for example, Jay Gonzalez plays guitar on this album. So Jay Gonzalez plays guitar on this album. The first time he's ever contributed guitar to a DBT album. So he's doing nearly all the guitar solos, although maybe a few by Cooley or something. But a majority of the solos on the guitar, that's Jay Gonzalez on that. So it's always like, doing like some incredible guitar work on the song and like on other songs. And then another talent of Jay that's on the song is his use of horn arrangements. So he did some horn arrangements on the song, which, so he's definitely a man of many talents on this album. But pretty much, so like Jay Gonzalez kind of adds a little more oomph to the band, which really does show them kind of trying some new things that they wouldn't have thought of before for their craft. For their craft, pretty much. Track number 2 is called When He's Gone, and this song is kind of it's a song about like a woman who obviously like it can't stand to have this man around. Like there's this man that this woman obviously hates to have around, but when he's gone, she somehow misses him. So it's kind of a song how you kind of have a split opinion on somebody. Like you may loathe the need in his eyes, but at the same time, you're going to miss him and get mad when that guy goes away. So it's kind of a song about kind of how, split your mind feels about somebody. Like the woman's mind definitely does feel kind of, a little split on, this guy. Because, it's a woman who can't stand to have him around, but always misses him when he's gone. So she loathes the need in his eyes, but then at the same time, every chance she gets to see him, she gets involved in it. So it's like an interesting story about how kind of split our minds feel over somebody sometimes. And it's kind of like the song that Patterson Hood is a great songwriter. He always writes songs that you just want to pay attention to. There's like two kinds of music out there. There's a kind of music you want to pay attention to and keep your mind wide open to it. But then there's also another kind of music that's like kind of tedious and boring and that you want to sleep through. But of course, like Drive-By Truckers are like the absolute opposite of music you want to sleep through. So, it's the kind of music where paying attention to the lyrics is really the key on there. The third song on here is called Primer Coat, and it's a song kind of about like, once again, kind of about someone's personal life, about this guy who graduated in 84 and then quit drinking in 92 and like he obviously has this woman that he calls like a basket case for like going on like she does and then of course and then of course there's also some lyrics about how like he talks on the phone sometimes but hardly mentions a thing, and then of course he goes out to the swimming pool and needs it for his knees because he used to swim back in school. And then there's like a little bit of humor to the lyrics in the song. Like for example, there's one lyric that says, "My sister's marrying in the fall and everything will be fine because Mama's planning the wedding and Daddy's planning on crying because, of course, it's kind of a humorous lyric because sometimes, how can it be fine when someone's planning on crying? So, and plus, I kind of read that, like, Cooley and Hood kind of use, like, apron strings on at least, like, one, used the term apron strings in like at least one of the songs on this album. Like on Primer Coat, Cooley uses apron strings, and then on Hanging On, Hood uses it in the lyrics. it on the lyrics. So it's kind of a coincidence right there. Um, and like there's like a and plus uh, and the song has like some pretty distinctive guitar sounds on it. Like it has this kind of drony, like there's one guitar on it that's like really kind of drony and distorted on there. That's like some sort of like acoustic guitar played through an amplifier or something like that. And then like some really nice B3 organ at the end too. Track number 4 is Pauline Hawkins, and this song was inspired by a character in the book The Free, which was written by a guy named Willie Vlautin. So what's interesting is that drive-by truckers have a knack for writing intriguing stories inspired by like characters from books and stuff like that. So this is one of their like pretty interesting book-inspired songs. It's obviously a guy obviously not caring about this lady and deciding that and being honest to her by saying, I ain't gonna answer your call or be your baby or anything like that, and kind of calling her like a vacation at a one night way station to keep him awake until he's ready to sleep. And it's a really long song too, which kind of makes sense because drive-by truckers, they've been known to do those long jams and they know how to rock out for such a long amount of time. I mean, a majority of the drive-by truckers albums are like pretty long. Like for example, The Dirty South is like 14 songs and it's like it's like 1 hour and 10 minutes, so there's a lot of long jams going on that album. So like Pauline Hawkins, pretty long song. Pretty long song. Like towards the end of the song, there's this gorgeous piano playing from Jay on there, and then after that comes like this just amazing just jam at the end, with some great guitar riffs and some mind-blowing drumming from Brad Morgan on there, which really does show that the band have a knack for just jamming as long as they want to. I mean, I'm pretty sure the band probably assumed it would get faded at some point, but David Barb was kind of just letting them kind of jam as long as they want and trying not to stand in their way, in their jam. It's kind of similar to what Modest Mouse does on their second album, where there's a lot of long jams going on, especially the track Trucker's Atlas that lasts about like 11 minutes, and like half of it's like just the band jamming out for such a long time. Track number 5 is the sort of title track called Made Up English Oceans. And this song has kind of an eerie, kind of spooky acoustic feel to it. It's got like some acoustic guitars, some really echoey percussion, as well as kind of this like sort of this fantasy movie-esque organ on there from Jay on there. So the song really does show the band kind of like branching out into more kind of the spooky rock sounds on there. So this song definitely does show the band kind of doing something different from past albums, which that's kind of all because Jay Gonzalez is really a guy that is really talented and plus has a knack for pretty much doing a bunch of weird sounds with his keyboards. I mean, there's one song off of The Big To Do called The Fourth Night of My Drinking, which has Jay playing this organ that was inspired by Vincent Price classic horror movies on there. Track number 6 is called The Part of Him, which is the tale kind of about this guy who's obviously like Patterson Hood's talking about like a politician who obviously, you know, never told the truth, and like of course he's, you know, kind of a guy that like you know, he's kind of a guy who like people had to call, but he wouldn't make amends, so like they have to like reel the poor boy in, and but then of course like it also talks about how his integrity was phoning in at the same time, totally Nixonian, honing in the art of making deals, and there's a really distinctive, unique guitar that's used on the song. On the song, Patterson Hood uses a guitar that was built by a guy who builds these incredible guitars for the band called Scott Baxendale. It's a K. Baxendale Mandocello, so you can hear that guitar being played on the recording of the song as well as on Primer Coat as well, being played through some sort of amplifier. So it's like an acoustic guitar, but it sounds like an electric guitar because it's like obviously played through some sort of amplifier. And Patterson Hood wrote a solo track on there called Disappear, which is on one of his solo records, Heat Lightning Rumbles in the Distance. And then of course there's this banjo that adds kind of this barnyard feel to the song, which, you know, it feels right at home on the song for sure. So like, you know, so like there's like kind of this barnyard banjo that kind of, you know, adds kind of this feel that just feels right for the song, in my opinion. Track number 7 is called Hearing Jimmy Loud, and it's about a guy who obviously, like, of course, had an old lady who nearly run him in the ground. And like a half a gram later, you're hearing like, you know, the guy like talking loud in the car, and he's like out of place, just like ashtrays and column shifts, and like and plus there's like some humorous little like similes going on there. Like there's like a simile on there that goes, she's like a talking leather couch. So like, you know, so there's like some kind of a little bit of, you know, humor going on because of all the metaphors and similes, like, you know, so like, you know, so the humor in the lyrics that's something like Cooley and Hood do in the band in a pretty cool way, for sure. Sure. Track number 8 is the first song the band's ever done with Cooley singing the lead vocal that like Hood wrote, Till He's Dead or Rises. And here's a little story about the song. Patterson Hood like tried to sing the song, like in the studio. He tried to sing it, but apparently he got kind of frustrated and angry because he couldn't get it right. So like he like asks Cooley, would you please sing on this song? And he's like, and Cooley's like, sure, you know, I was just thinking about that. So it was kind of a song where Hood was expected to sing it but couldn't do it. So, you know, he let Cooley do, you know, the dirty work, which is of course the vocal for the song. Goal for the song. So it's interesting how like, you know, Hood was, you know, gracious enough to like let you know, Cooley sing the lead vocal on it since you know, he couldn't do it, although he tried to do it. Because, you know, all that it takes is trying before you decide whether it works or not. And there's like some interesting sounds on here. Like there's like a jazzy electric piano on it that's like really funky. That's like a vintage Wurlitzer that Jay Gonzalez plays. And then he's also doing like this piano sound that's like really like low. It's like It's kind of similar to what goes on the song Ray's Automatic Weapon from the last album, where Jay does this thing. It's like a really loud, like, just bang on the piano. It's really low. He kind of does the same thing on the song Till He's Dead or Rises, except it's not as, like, intense or, like, or, like, so like, the piano sound with the really low bang, it's, like, on there, but it's, like, not as intense as it is on Ray's Automatic Weapon off of the last album. Out of the last album. Track number 9 is called Hanging On, and that's the kind of song that I could see, like, Patterson Hood and Mike Cooley could easily be seen in my mind playing this song, like, on Patterson Hood's, like, porch or something like that. So it's the kind of song Patterson Hood could be seen, like, playing on his porch, because it's, like, kind of a relaxed kind of acoustic song. But then it also has the use of, like, this electric guitar with a heavy tremolo effect on it, as well as this Wurlitzer that's, like, along with this Wurlitzer piano that's, like, played with, like, a Leslie, like, pedal on it, so it sounds kind of like an organ, but I think it's actually an electric piano played with a Leslie speaker on it. And, like, it's kind of a song kind of about, like, some struggles with life, like, you're dealing with a person that can't stand one thing you do, like, in this case, it's a guy who has a mother that can't stand, like, the way he lays around all day, and leans on her to, like, to help him on his way. So it's kind of about, like, struggles with life a little bit. Like, you're using credit cards, and, like, but then you complain because it's, like, hard to obtain all this struggle that you've got going on with all these things and all this time on your hand. So like, it's kind of a song, like, anyone who feels really crappy about their life and what they're dealing with, listen to this song, and it might connect with you, and it might resonate with you, because it's, kind of melancholy, which Drive-By Truckers have sort of been known to write songs that have some melancholy to them, kind of similar to what the old 97s do. I mean, their lyrics, but it seems that the more melancholy and the more kind of crappy things that, the songs talk about, the more listenable and the more kind of understandable it seems to be, as opposed to a bunch of people who just use recycled lyrics and let that be their base. Which, if only more artists would kind of, not be so insipid with their lyrics. Like Drive-By Truckers definitely, really are lyrics that, you pay attention to and don't feel all basic. They really do feel like Drive-By Truckers, really kind of telling stories that no one might have ever heard before. Track number 10 is the boozy piano song Natural Light, which is the kind of song I would hear, like, the band playing in some sort of, like, smoky, like, honky-tonk or something like that, because it's kind of a boozy, like, piano-driven number. And it has this weird intro that has, like, the band, like, basically preparing to play their instruments. Like, you hear a little ding 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 ding, like Jay preparing for his piano, and then, like, you hear, like, bing. So it's like a weird intro where, like, everybody's, like, basically just waiting to be able to, get to the song with their instruments. So it's, like, kind of a weird little, like, preamble of, like, instruments that goes on. at the beginning of the song, which I think is like pretty funny that they like left it there. For sure. Track number 11 is called When Walter Went Crazy, and it's a song about, a guy that obviously, a guy named Walter who obviously has a wife, who hasn't been off the couch in at least a dozen years, who paints her toenails and drinks tabs and stuff like that. And when Walter went crazy, when the guy goes crazy, he engulfs his house in flames, kind of similar to how the Tom Waits track Frank's Wild Years is kind of it's this funny little dialogue about this guy who obviously douses his house in some shell gas and then torches it. Walter's hands shake from all the bourbon and the shame and all this kind of stuff that's obviously frustrating him in life, pretty much. And of course, their friends could see it coming, a house fire in the distance or a car crash in slow-mo, pretty much. The 12th song is called First Air of Autumn, and it's once again kind of a chill acoustic number with this little bed of organ on there. And this is the kind of song I would definitely see Mike Cooley maybe playing on his porch or something like that. Or something like that. And then it closes with Grand Canyon, which is a long song. Once again, it's 8 minutes long. One thing that sets it apart from other Drive-By Truckers albums is that there isn't a whole lot of long jams on here. I mean, there are about 2 tracks on here that are really long songs, but the rest of them pretty much are not so lengthy. A lot of them are 4-minute tracks, which might disappoint some fans expecting a bunch of long jams like what they've done on some of their early albums. But of course, you don't always have to have long jams for the band, although it's always cool when they do that. And this song, Grand Canyon, it's a long song. It's about 8 minutes. Minutes. And, the song, was... And, this song was actually dedicated to, a guy named Craig Leask. And, the whole record is, dedicated to him as well. When I listen to the song and when I hear it's called Grand Canyon, I wonder if he's referring to it could be referring to, probably the Grand Canyon that's, in Arizona. I think that's what he's referring to. And then at the end of the song, there's, some weird, sound effects, loops at the end, courtesy of David Barb, who, in the liner notes, is credited as looping at end, courtesy of Professor David Barb. So, David Barb's, doing a bunch of weird, looping at the end. So, it's a long song, but it's not because there's, a jam at the end, on Pauline Hawkins. The whole reason it's a long song is because at the end, there's, 2 minutes of, David Barb, doing all this looping during that end section. So it's, a weird little, repetitive part at the end on there. Part at the end. So, it's not my favorite Drive-By Truckers album. I certainly like the Dirty South better than this, but, It's still a good album, so I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Uh, there's some good lyrics. Drive-By Truckers have always known to write good lyrics, and I really like how the band's growing, and and they're just letting themselves kind of just do whatever works for them, like so they're not all just doing long jams, like sometimes all they need to do is just a relaxed acoustic number. So on this album, they're really doing whatever works for the bands on here. So that's my review of English Oceans, and I'll see you in episode 52.